Hey, welcome back to Deep Conditioner. Today, I just wanted to give you guys an encouragement and just really help spur you guys on. This is something that I think will be really beneficial and valuable. But, guys, here's this. So, I wanted to share something from out of the book of John, chapter 15. So, I'll read a bit of the section so that you guys can get some context and understanding around it. And then there's a couple of verses that I actually wanted to specifically look into and talk about. I'm going to be reading from John chapter 15, and we're going to look at a couple of those verses and go a bit deeper into that. We're going to stop at verse 11, and I'm reading from the ESV version. So, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As a branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. We're going to stop there at verse 11. So, specifically again, wanted to highlight and look into verses 4 and 5. Abide in me, and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. So, the context of these verses are Jesus who is speaking to his disciples, and he's describing himself as the true vine, and he is describing his disciples as the branches. And so also specifically he was talking to his immediate disciples in this, but also this then points out to all of his followers as well. Basically, I think it's as simple as that. I feel like it can be pretty obvious what that is saying, but maybe for a bit more deeper understanding, or to just explore this a little bit, one thing that Jesus is really establishing with us, especially what we see in this regarding the new covenant that he brought, but what Jesus is really establishing, what he says clearly here, is that the only way for us to do God's will, the only way for us to do good, to actually do our purpose that God has called us to, is to abide in Jesus. It's impossible for us to do what God has called us to do, to be obedient, to be faithful, to do his commands. It's impossible to do that, we have to abide in God, and God abides in us. We can't do this on our own. It's impossible. What Jesus has clearly established and showed is that we can't do good unless it is through him, unless we are relying on him, unless we're abiding in him. And so, or what this results in is this abiding in him is to bear fruit. It's to be faithful to God. When we abide in him, then we bear fruit. If we're not abiding in God, we cannot bear fruit. We cannot be able to show these characteristics that are Christ-like. I want to give some cross references to, help there to be more understanding. So these cross references are basically just other scriptures that connect. 1 John 2:6 says, whoever claims to abide in him must walk as Jesus walked. 1 John 3:24, whoever keeps his commandments remains in God, and God in him. And by this we know that he remains in us by the Spirit that he has given us. 1 John 4:13, by this we know that we remain in him and he in us. He has given us of his Spirit. Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up for me. Okay, so practically, how can we abide in Christ so that we can bear his fruit? When we look at the Webster's 1828 dictionary, it describes abide as to be, to exist, to continue, to dwell, rest, stand firm, or to be stationary for any time indefinitely. It's one of the definitions. Another definition is to continue permanently or in the same state, to be firm, immovable. And when we look at the Greek, one of the translations use the words means to remain, or remain specifically. And in the Greek, the word for that is menon. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that right, but the word is menon. And so what this means, according to Strong's, is to remain, abide, stay, wait. It's an action. So with this imagery that Jesus has given us, that we have to remain connected to him as a vine and us as the branch in order for us to bear fruit. So ways that we can abide, that we can stay connected to God so that we can bear his fruit like he has called us to, by continuing that relationship with him in the way that he has made and designed it to be, in ways like praying, constantly having that communion with God, talking with him as Jesus even modeled for us, praying for his will to be done in our lives. We can do it by reading his word so we can hear his voice, that we can know him, what he has called us to do, studying that, memorizing those verses, reading that daily throughout the day, by seeking his will rather than to do what we want, by depending upon him, by relying on him instead of ourselves. We can even do that by going to church as God has called us to, so that we can have what God has made the church for, to fellowship amongst other believers, to spur and encourage each other on in holiness, to worship him, which we can also do throughout the week as well, to worship him, to sing his praises, by hearing his word, being led closer and towards him. Those are some ways that we can abide in God, so that way we can bear his fruit. But let me tell you about my personal experience with this, because I'm not just saying this to you guys, I'm also saying this to myself as well. Again, this is a continuous thing. It's not just a one-time thing. And it's something that we have to continue to act on and choose to do. And so here's my experience with not really abiding in God. So when I had truly devoted my life to God and decided to actually receive sincerely salvation from Him, I knew that I had to get away from my flesh, from sin, and I had to turn towards God and do what He calls us to and be obedient. But oftentimes, and to make sure I'm being authentic with you guys, when I struggled with sexual immorality, especially early on, there would be times where I was trying to get away from it, and times where I'm begging God, I'm crying, tears streaming down my face, I'm on my knees begging Him to just do it for me because I can't do it. Trying so hard to get away from it and yet failing over and over again, and even that with many other different sins as well. What maybe I thought was small, or even to what the biggest things, the reason why I kept on messing up in these things, was that every time was that I was not abiding in God. I was not relying on Him. It was because of me. It was because of my own choice. I chose to do that sin. But if we choose to abide in God, to rely on Him, if we choose to continue in His grace, that's the only way for us to do good. That was oftentimes what I didn't understand, is that I was trying to do good out of my own strength. And that looked like me just thinking about it, trying to act in my own way rather than seeking God and really relying on Him for help by looking in His Word and studying His Word and trying to understand why these things are problems, what's good, how do I get away from this, instead of me making sure that I was sincerely praying and then acting upon what God has called me to do. I often messed up because I wasn't abiding in Him. Often messed up because I was not fully relying on Him. But when there is time where I'm away from my flesh, I'm away from things that can tempt me, instead when I'm abiding in God, when I'm spending time praying to Him secretly, alone with Him, or in constant prayer throughout the day, when I'm studying His Word and genuinely seeking Him, and seeking, not just reading and studying it just because, but seeking Him and to understand Him and to know Him. When I'm seeking to rely on Him and seeking Him for strength, that's abiding, that's following Him, that's helping me to then bear His fruit. So, all in all, my encouragement to you guys is to depend upon God, rely on Him, follow Him, seek Him, do His will. If you choose to abide in things of the world and to abide in your flesh, if we choose to go and seek the will and the way of our flesh and our own desires instead of seeking God in this, that may cause for us to have troubles and struggles with bearing fruit, relying on Him, bearing these fruits that He's called us to do, like in Galatians chapter 5. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. We're not going to be able to do those. We're not going to be able to do His will unless we follow Him, unless we rely on Him, unless we stay connected to Him constantly, genuinely, sincerely seeking Him and following Him. When we, as the branch, stay connected to Jesus as the vine, only then can we bear fruit. We can't do it on our own. And we can't do it in our own ways. We can only do that when we're abiding, connected with Him, and following Him in the way He has called us to go. So if you have struggles with it, Pick yourself up. Don't stay down in the dirt. Seek accountability. Seek help from your local pastor. Get people around you who are not going to encourage you to be in your flesh, but instead will encourage you to seek God, to follow Him, and to obey Him, and be that person as well for others. I encourage you to seek God, to seek to know Him, to understand Him, and obey Him, so that we may bear His fruit, so that we may become more like Christ. I love you guys.